This video is going to be a film study look at Devon Witherspoon's rookie season. I didn't need much prodding or suggestions from Seahawks fans to go create or produce another one of these videos. I actually did one, I think, around week 6 or 7 of 2023. He's a fun player to watch. So like I said, I only needed one or maybe two people to request it. And I think he's exactly what Mike Macdonald is or was looking for when he took the job in Seattle. He's a guy who played some outside corner as a rookie in 2023, but also spent considerable time at the nickel or slot corner in Seattle's defense. His usage there is interesting to me when you look at the other guys that are under contract for the Seahawks, specifically Trey Brown, a guy who I think played well on the outside in 2024, certainly made some big plays in a Week 2 road win against the Lions. He's only got a $1 million cap hit. So from a salary cap standpoint, when you have a good player, only 1 year left remaining on their deal, and it's at $1 million, you keep him. Tariq Woolen on the other side has 2 years left in his rookie deal, and when you pair those two with Witherspoon at the nickel, that's very enticing, if you ask me, based on the film from that alignment. The problem, however, is what do you do against base personnel for the offense? So 21 or 12 personnel, you want Witherspoon on the field, period. He's so dynamic, explosive, and such a playmaker against the run and the pass. You have to have him on the field. The film shows that from 2023. So how do you navigate or change between him playing outside corner in your base defense to nickel or slot corner, nickel safety against 11 personnel? So I wanted to get that idea out before we get to the film because I will spend considerable time comparing his two usages, or the deployments in 2023, if you will. The film, look, rookie of the year type stuff, if you ask me. There was so many players deserving of rookie of the year overall. How do you choose from C.J. Stroud and Puka Nacua or Will Anderson? The D tackle for the Rams is badass as well. But as far as defensive rookie of the year, you've got Witherspoon, Brian Branch, Jalen Carter, and Will Anderson. Those four, if you ask. Look, the fact that Witherspoon is in that conversation after playing nickel corner and outside corner, I think that's incredible in and of itself, if you ask me. I have to mention, however, that I think his most disruptive moments seemed to be when he was lined up at the nickel. And to be honest with you, that's not what I perceived coming out of Illinois into his rookie year. Now, in Mike Macdonald's defense, he's going to get a lot of opportunities to make plays at or behind the line of scrimmage if he plays the nickel. I think Macdonald will move him around. Macdonald just left Baltimore, where he had Kyle Hamilton for 2 years. Kyle Hamilton's rookie year played a lot of nickel. By his second year, he was a safety who sometimes dropped down to play the nickel position against 11 personnel. The difference here for me is Hamilton's a safety. Witherspoon is a corner, an outside corner, who can step into the box, if you will, and play that. Look, there may be something to be said for playing a base nickel against certain teams, certainly against the Rams, who go all 11 personnel in your division. You'll be in your 4-2-5 nickel the entire game. Some teams, that's their base. For example, the Buffalo Bills. Taron Johnson is that seventh defender in or around the box as a nickel safety, whether it's 11 personnel, 21, or 12. I think Witherspoon's just somebody you got to have on the field, period. He probably is the most effective nickel because no matter where you put him, he's going to have an impact. So let's start with him at the nickel position, where I think he is a potential star. Against the Rams, week 11, in the nickel position, slot corner, if you will, going to come on a blitz. And the thing that I like about him, first of all, he's an amazing athlete. He's going to win some matchups just because of his athleticism. This is against a starting level tight end for the Rams and Higbee. And I'll show you the end zone angle so you can see. I mean, he's just violent with his hands, number one. Number two, he's got such a motor that he just plays through contact at times, even when the body at times, not on this play in particular, seems to be moving in two different directions at the same time. He's very kinetic, or frenetic, I guess is perhaps the better word. He had a couple of big plays this year that got called back for penalties on other teammates, a sack and an interception that I will show you. This one is a beautiful example, if you ask me. Against Dallas, 2nd and goal from the 3. I think Dallas scored on the ensuing play, but I could be wrong, of how explosive he is and his recognition. You want an athlete like Witherspoon to the field. So what I mean by that, and notice on a lot of these plays where he's at nickel, where the ball is and where he's lined up. In this case, the ball's on the left hash. Witherspoon is to the field, to the wide side of the field. There's more space over there to attack. I'll have a video coming out soon on how NFL offenses utilize three to the boundary. Oftentimes a receiver, a tight end, and a running back lined up into the boundary to attack NFL defenses away from the nickel defender. I will constantly bring that up across videos that if you check them out. This is the same play from the end zone angle, by the way, and you'll see the explosiveness and the acceleration. And he's got a little bit of, I would almost say he's got a little bit of C.J. Gardner-Johnson in him. He likes to let people know how good of a player he is. And I think every NFL defense needs someone or multiple guys with some of that attitude. I love the recognition and then the burst and the timing of his jump. He's a guy who generates plays that shouldn't be there, plays that don't show up on the chalkboard for the offense coordinator when they're drawing things up, trying to put defenses in conflict. Earlier in the season, this is week 4, and I'll talk about this this changeover from week 3 to week 4 at length. Week 3 against Carolina played a lot of outside corner. And here you are against the Giants in week 4. He had a pick 6, obviously. Huge sack. Mike McDonald, his nickel blitzes, there's exquisite timing. Well, Devon Witherspoon seems to already have control of that. He seems to already have a handle of that. And as the quarterback is back to him, this is just a kill shot. We're lucky they didn't get a forced fumble here. He's just, everything Devon Witherspoon does on the field is explosive and potentially dangerous for the offense. This one, I think, gets called back for a hold up at the top side of the screen on Tariq Woolen, or maybe it's illegal contact downfield. It's a 15-yard loss. And again, related to him going up against Higbee on that sack against the Rams earlier. Watch him play downhill here. And this is a NFL lineman who's wrapping out. I think it's the center. He just runs by him, but he runs by him at such an angle that he doesn't take himself out of the play. He's a beautiful football player from the standpoint of doing so many things correctly. And there's no way that Mike McDonald hasn't looked at this and thought, this is a guy I can put at nickel and be absolutely devastating, again, to the field. Notice where the ball was snapped from, the left hash, and he's the slot corner or nickel to the field. That's where the nickel defender is going to be the overwhelming majority of the time at any level of college football or the NFL. Occasionally, you'll get them lined up into the boundary, but that's a very rare situation. Another reason why you want them lined up to the field is for running backs and or athletic quarterbacks who end up running the ball to the field. Here's an example. Week 18 against Arizona, got significant film of this game. Thought he looked spectacular as a nickel defender here. The recognition, the eyes. First of all, he's such a talented athlete that he's willing to be able to line up in a pre-snap alignment that looks like man, but then turn and look in towards the quarterback so he can see the football, see what's happening. In this case, he sees a mesh between the quarterback and the running back. It's actually a really cool run scheme. I would call it down, sweep, read by the Cardinals, but I digress a little bit. Quarterback keeps it. And Kyler Murray's super athletic himself. Devon Witherspoon is just a higher level of athleticism and makes a tackle for a 1-yard loss. End zone angle, you'll see him late. He's off screen to our left, obviously. Pulling the center and the guard to the boundary and leaving the field side defensive end unblocked. The slot receiver off screen to our left is supposed to go get Witherspoon. He cannot because A, Witherspoon's looking in the backfield, and B, Witherspoon's burst and athleticism allows him to get there before the slot receiver, Rondale Moore, is able to even touch him or come near him. And again, Witherspoon likes to tell people how good he is. When you're this good and you can play in this area here, this is 13 personnel, and the Seahawks on a 2nd and 6 have their nickel personnel on the field. So here's what I mean. Corner, and then 2 safeties. And then here's Witherspoon lined up where the 3 tight ends are to the field again. In this case, it's F counter coming back to the field. The Cardinals had run this play earlier into the boundary in this game. And in fact, for like a 29-yard touchdown, I think by Connor. In this case, they're running it back to the field. Watch what Witherspoon does. I think he knows that this play may be coming. It's the same exact formation. Same exact 2 guys pulling. It's the tight end who just motioned and the left guard. And this is Witherspoon basically going upfield on the first blocker, an NFL left guard, slapping him past and then jumping back inside. Now, look, it's still a 7-yard gain. I would say on some level, Seattle's outmanned here from a physicality standpoint with 3 tight ends on the field for the Cardinals, but Devon Witherspoon is damn near like a linebacker. Now, I don't mean that from his size and his weight, but the way that he's able to play the game. Devon Witherspoon is a nickel defender at the highest level, if you ask me, and capable of being a starting outside corner. I think there may be more potential for game-changing, explosive plays with him playing at the nickel. You may have a different opinion than me, and that's no problem. He's down here again to the field, and I think that this one's probably going to cause me a copyright issue with the NFL, so won't be any analysis here because I suspect I may have to edit out this portion of the video. If you're a Seahawks fan, you've probably seen that play multiple times already, so I don't need to run it multiple times. The last thing I'll point out from this particular play is, again, the ball's slightly inside the right hash, but they've set the nickel defender to the field away from the Twins initially. Maybe they knew or suspected they were going to get motion to the downside, but in any case, they did. You have 2 safeties here. I think that's Love and Diggs. And then Witherspoon is the nickel. Again, I suspect that this play is going to get me a copyright hit by the NFL, so I'm only going to show it once. But this is a spectacular guy when you get him at the nickel. And I don't know what other Seahawks fans, film analysts say about his play, and I certainly have no idea what PFF or any other rating services say about his play. I couldn't care less what those types of people have to say. When you watch the film, you can see exactly how this guy's a game changer out there at nickel, how he can cover. And we'll show a little bit more film of him covering as an outside corner because I think it gives you an idea of the level of athleticism and technique that he does play with. I do think there's slight improvements that could be made on his technique as an outside corner, and that will be my concern between him moving between nickel and outside corner is the techniques are different, the reads are different on some level. When you start talking about trips and reading 3 or 2 receivers and reading 2, there are some very big similarities with certain coverages, but I would worry about asking too much of him. I would want to put him at his most devastating location, and for me right now, I think that's nickel corner. One of the benefits to having someone with, first of all, this level of talent and then this positional versatility, able to be a starter and a huge impact player at nickel and outside corner, is if someone else on your roster gets hurt at one of those aforementioned positions, you can move Devon Witherspoon to the other location and be fine, number one, perhaps even be an upgrade at that spot. This happens to be an interception that I believe gets called back for a penalty on the Seahawks, but I could be wrong. Witherspoon, if you ask me, is one of those guys, whether he's at nickel or outside corner, who can defend the routes, and in some cases, not this play in particular, keep his eye on the quarterback at the same time and understand that he's trying to fit between these 2 routes and basically defend both of them, even when there's underneath guys who would be responsible for that tight end. I think he's not just a physically gifted and aggressive football player, extremely smart, meaning if he were to practice at outside corner for all of training camp and leading up to week 1, you would get high-level football plays like this one consistently. Maybe not interceptions every week because that's just not realistic. But at the same time as him being super athletic and smart, he will not give an inch. This appears to me to be a guy who wants to contest everything and is almost pissed off that you're coming to his side of the field. And I love it. I don't know what your background is with football or sports, but for me, give me 11 guys like Devon Witherspoon, no matter how big they are. And, oh, by the way, that's him tackling Jahmyr Gibbs, one of the premier athletes to come out of last year's draft, a guy who broke a lot of tackles for the Lions this year. And one of the things that teams do in the NFL and college football and at all levels is they leave outside corners unblocked often. Go pin the strong safety or nickel to that side, make that corner tackle. I guess you could say if you've got Tariq Woolen on one side, who certainly had some issues with tackling in 2023, I think they're well documented, and Devon Witherspoon on the other. From an athletic standpoint, you have 2 guys who are purely capable of tackling pretty much any running back if they have the space and the leverage to do so. Oh, by the way, the same guy, Witherspoon, is up top covering Sam Laporta on a 4th down. Now, that some would say, well, that's a tight end coach. I would expect him to be able to cover him. That's no regular tight end. That's Sam Laporta. He had a historic rookie year from a receiving standpoint. The Lions rely on him to line up at outside wide receiver at times, use his big body, his frame to kind of box out smaller corners. In this case, you've got, I think Laporta kind of gears down between the top of the number. Sometime thereafter, I'm going to unpause it here in a moment. Sometime between here and here, he kind of gears down a little bit. I think he's trying not to run into a second level defender for the Seahawks. But nonetheless, Witherspoon with the burst is able to not just recover, close down from here until the ball arrives, and then swat down with his hand with perfect timing. I haven't played Madden or NCAA college football in a long time, obviously, because NCAA college football hasn't been out for about a decade. He reminds me of guys you used to play against on those games, and you'd be like, someone wouldn't do that. They couldn't do all that. They couldn't intercept that ball. They couldn't close and tip that. Devon Witherspoon can do pretty much all of that. Significant film of him in week 3 against the Panthers, playing outside corner, which, as I alluded to earlier, is interesting because in week 4 against the Giants, he played almost all nickel. This is a screen out of empty where, first of all, D tackle for Seattle almost makes a brilliant play, closing down from the inside of the field, and almost makes the tackle as Witherspoon sets it inside. Unable to finish the tackle here. I think that's also Bobby Wagner. And then Witherspoon, again, he's pissed off when the ball comes to his side. You want, if you ask me, you want as many guys like that on your football team. This is a 2nd and 8. I've kind of lost track, to be honest with you, of where this is in terms of game flow. I think it's early in the game. This is a completion to Mingo, who's the guy in motion, out into the flats. A little snag flat concept. Goes for 4 yards. He's pissed off that Mingo is able to catch the football. He reminds me, again, of one of my favorite players for the Lions, C.J. Gardner-Johnson. There is this mentality that Devon Witherspoon has that he wants to win every single snap out there on the field, especially when the ball comes to his side. Playing primarily left corner here because, as I said earlier, Tariq Woolen is a right corner generally. In this case, Trey Brown happens to be the right corner. It's a great example of his ability to close down. I'm not saying that it's a great route by Jonathan Mingo, to be honest with you, but he's able to close down and get to the correct leverage. Look where his feet are already. He's already to the inside. I'll run this back one more time, by the way, so you can see it. When he's in his pedal, he's already hedging to the inside. I think he's a super intelligent football player who understands leverage and where things are going to go. You can see he's already inside shade on Mingo, which is not where he was pre-snap. Seattle's showing this little bear look with Brooks, the inside linebacker, up on the tight end. Not necessarily a bear look because, they don't have a zero shade nose tackle, and they certainly don't have another 3 in the B gap to the opposite side. But when I say bear, I'm talking about the linebacker being lined up on the tight end and then a potential edge rusher lined up outside, presumably free to rush. You get a great view, I think, here of his ability to close down and challenge at the catch point. It's the same thing he did at Illinois. All of his film there was fantastic. Me personally, I thought he was just going to be an outside corner. I thought that's what he would do. I didn't realize he was going to be this damn good. He's certainly very physical with his hands. I think he did get called for 8 penalties this year. Maybe it was 7. I didn't get the feeling that they were as numerous as Tariq Woolen's, but when I did the video on Woolen a couple weeks ago, I looked it up and I saw that there was more penalties called on Witherspoon than I recalled. Actually, it might have been 5 now that I think of it. It might have been Trey Brown who had 8 or 9. So in any case, between those 3 guys, I think it was 22 penalties on the year. He will not give an inch, even to a physically imposing guy like Mingo. I used film from week 3, and look, this throw by Andy Dalton is disrupted by Reed. That's why it's a little bit off target. I used film from week 3 because it was the game where I saw him play in the most outside corner. As the year progressed, he was at nickel a lot. And when you look at the division that the Seahawks are in, with the Rams playing so much 11 personnel, it's got to be very intriguing to Mike McDonald to make him the nickel full-time from day one. With no second-round pick as well, what Seattle does with their first-round pick, I think, will tell you a whole lot about where they may go defensively with that Witherspoon, Woolen, and Trey Brown trio. In the aforementioned film study that I did on Tariq Woolen a couple of weeks ago, I tried to describe what I think is Mike McDonald's biggest task, at least as I understand it. If you're a Seahawks fan, you listen this long, first of all, thank you. But second of all, you probably have a better understanding of the certain boxes that he's got to check off in terms of naming an offensive coordinator, assembling his entire staff, and trying to get the best out of each and every player and coach and person in the organization. For me, I think if you get the elite versions of Tariq Woolen, similar to his 2022 play, and what Devon Witherspoon looked like in 2023. If Mike McDonald can find a way to get those two versions of those players on the field together in 2024, that gets Seattle further down the road to playing winning football than pretty much any of those other decisions. In my opinion, the best chance to accomplish that is playing Witherspoon at the nickel and Tariq Woolen at right corner. You may disagree. You may want to see Witherspoon playing at an outside corner, and certainly film exists of him playing at a high level doing so, so I wouldn't argue against that. I just think he can impact the game the most as a blitzer, coverage guy from inside the slot corner, nickel, safety position, even though he's only 185 pounds and certainly looks smaller than you would presume most nickel defenders would be, guys who play in or around the box like Kyle Hamilton, Brian Branch, and others. If you enjoyed this film study video, please let me know in the comment section. Multiple people requested it, so I wanted to do it and separate the film into nickel and outside corner positions, and I like to try to offer a dichotomy as much as possible, and I think Devon Witherspoon is a guy who does that just because of the nature of his film. Because you can deploy him anywhere, nickel or outside corner, and he's going to impact the game. I wonder what his preference is. If you are a Seahawks fan and he's ever commented on it or anyone has ever asked him, feel free to let me know in the comment section what Devon Witherspoon's preference is. I suspect it's nickel defender because it looks like he likes to get his hands on people, and it looks like he likes to, I know he likes to talk trash, but it looks like he likes to talk trash to players or humans that are bigger than him. And I enjoy being around those kind of people, and I certainly appreciate watching film of them. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you think other Seahawks fans would enjoy this film study video look at Devon Witherspoon's rookie season, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media so other Seahawks fans can enjoy it as well.